Alright, I put in the sign-in sheets. Sign on in. If you got any questions, type them on in. If you got any questions, type them on in. What's going on? Okay, I gotta fix that. Alright, shalom, shalom, shalom. Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shabarakatha to all my brothers, Yahweh Shema Elatham Hashem, Yahweh Shai to all my sisters. This is the ISUPK out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General Yohana. And I'm Priest and Officer Ricard Ariel, Priest and Officer of 500. And today we're going to talk about a subject that seems to be controversial, but it's such a simple thing. It's such a something that gives us such high standards and high morals if we live by it. And that subject is what sex actually is and what marriage actually is according to the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to get into it. We're going to break it down. We're going to show you according to the scriptures what marriage and sex actually is. And by the end of this class, you're going to realize that it's actually the same thing. See, so if you got any questions, type them on in. Let's get it popping. Give y'all a few minutes as I try to tend to some technical difficulties. Trying to figure out something. Bear with me. Okay. Bear with me one sec. Gotta get things popping on the Facebook. Okay, we should be good now. We should be good. I should have got things popping, yep. Let me share this real quick. I don't know why I said that. One sec. One sec. All right, look like we got things up and running. All right, let me start this over again. Shalom, Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shai Barakatah to all my brothers, Yahweh Shema Lathabah Shem, Yahweh Shai to all my sisters. This is Officer 500 Rakal Ariel coming to you out of Boston. This is the ISUPK, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, which started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under command of General Yohana. In today's class, I'm going to teach about, and I'm going to prove how sex, according to the Bible, is marriage. How whoever you end up having sex with, that's the one you're supposed to stay with. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem with the black community. We have such a low moral code. We have such low standards that we take sex as a recreational thing when it's a far more serious event. It's not something to be played with. It's not a game. You know what I'm saying? That's why we end up in situations that we don't want, that we gotta deal with for the rest of our lives. You know what I'm saying? Because we couldn't control our lust and so forth and so on. So we end up doing things out of pleasure for our own lust that ends up jamming us up. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get into it a bit, but if you have any questions, I see y'all out there. If you have any questions, you know what I'm saying, type them on in. You know what I'm saying? I want to give y'all a couple of minutes to get it done. If you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to start asking some questions. I mean, if you don't have questions, that means you know it all. You know everything. That means you don't have to be taught. And this is a class. This ain't the Christian church. You know what I'm saying? We here to answer your questions. That's what we are here to do. We are here to answer your questions, like true priests and prophets of the Lord's do. See, the Christian church, you go in the Christian church, you raise your hand, you're liable to get kicked out just for raising your hand. See, when you raise your hand in the Christian church, it got to be followed with a hallelujah or something. Nah, you can ask a question here. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to get into it. Let's go to Exodus 22 and 16. Let me put that in the chat. That's the first scripture we're going to go to. So, first 5 books. Give you a couple of seconds to get there. All right, I'm going to read it. Exodus chapter 22, verse 16. If a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, what does it mean to entice a maid? How do you entice somebody? Put it like this. Can you entice somebody with something that they don't want? Can you entice them with something that they don't need? Nah, you can't. You can't entice a vegan with a steak sandwich. You can't give a vegan a burger and talk about, yo, you give me the, like, I'll give you this burger if you do this, that, and this, and this, and this. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You gotta put something in their ear that you like. You gotta tell them something good, like the song used to say. You gotta whisper some sweet nothing, start brown nosing, aka kick game. That's what enticing the maid is. You gotta kick game. You gotta tell them something that they want to hear. And that's something that Black, Hispanic, and Native men know how to do. fact, it's borderline a lifestyle out here. You know what I'm saying? Kicking game is a lifestyle out here. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying? But let me continue. Let me start from the top, actually. Exodus chapter 22, verse 16. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. Okay, now we already established that enticing her is to spit some game. Now, what does it mean to lie with her? Does it mean they conjuring up schemes and plots and plans? And they lying together in unison? Is that what that means? Nah, that's not what that means. To lie with her means to get it in. They get in that bed, he starts sitting there with those heavy strokes, putting chills down her spine, and he shall endow her to be his wife. That is now his wife. See, that's the moral code and the moral standard. Let me put it like this. Right now, we don't have that moral code or that standard as a people. So when we lay with somebody, we think it's fun and games. So a lot of feelings get involved, a lot of emotions, you know what I'm saying? Children become in existence, you know what I'm saying? Diseases are passed, you know what I'm saying? Lives are literally taken. Because y'all think it's just recreation. Y'all think it's just a game. When sex is actually a covenant between two people. You know what I'm saying? You just can't be given that. And what type of low standards do you have to just, you know what I'm saying? You thinking that it's fun and games. You thinking that it's a recreational sport. So you're doing it with any and everybody. You got no standards. See, when you know that you stuck with that person for life, you start critiquing them. You want to know if they're worthy of it. You want to know if they deserve what you got to give them. So you scrutinize them. You start checking out their family history. You start wondering what they about. You know what I'm saying? You start getting some standards about who you choose to be with. That's something that the Christian church won't teach you. See, and with this recreational thing, people just seem to toss each other away real quickly, disregarding each other. You know what I'm saying? Start just throwing each other away like we're nothing. Just using and abusing. All over some 10 minutes of pleasure. You know what I'm saying? But we gonna get more into it. I'm gonna read that again, just in case it ain't hit your ear right. You know what I'm saying? And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, if a man starts kicking it to a woman that is not betrothed, what does it mean to be betrothed? To be betrothed means to be promised to somebody else. She's not engaged. She's not kicking it with somebody. She's not having a sex buddy. She's completely single. And if you're lucky, she completely never had anybody else. But we live in this world, so we know that's not happening. But if she's not promised to anybody, she ain't kicking it to anybody, she ain't having conversations with nobody else, and you kicking game to her, you know what I'm saying? And lie with her, and you start, you know what I'm saying, getting it in with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. He definitely gonna pay the cost to be her boss. You know what I'm saying? You are now her husband. You are now her leader, her head. She is now your responsibility, your helpmeet. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a little more higher standards with what you do. But let's go to Genesis 24:67. Let's get into a story real quick. Let's see an example of one of our ancestors on how they did it. See, right now, the custom that we follow is of a European standard. That is of the standard of our enemy. And what is that standard? According to our enemy, you are not married unless you have a ring and a paper. It has nothing to do with loyalty, love, or anything. You are not married unless you have some type of legal documents proving it. So they take the spirituality out of it. They take your choice and your right out of it. They turn sex into recreation by doing that. Cause now people could say, "Hey, I ain't got no ring and paper. We ain't married. I can have sex with whoever I want," which is of a low standard. That's a low moral standard. You know what I'm saying? But when you know that sex is marriage, you have a higher standard. You ain't having sex with just anybody. You know what I'm saying? That is of a higher standard. But let's continue. Genesis chapter 24, verse 67. And Isaac brought her into his mother's tent and took Rebekah. What does that mean? Isaac took her into his mother's tent. Isaac took Rebekah, you know what I'm saying, to his mother's tent, just like most Judites do. They try to, that's our first place we got it in, at home, on mama's bed, mama's room. You know, one of your little brothers or cousins, you know what I'm saying, sneaking to peek at it, you know what I'm saying. You wanted a little more privacy than what your own actual room gave. We all did it. But let's get into it. Let me prove it a little further. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. There is no paper, there is no ring, there's no proposal. He took her up in his mama's tent, he took her, they got it in, she became his wife. And don't get it misconstrued. When they say took her, don't be like these cats out here with the sackcloth on, the potato sack garments. That's not rape. No, this is a mutual consensual thing. You know what I'm saying? This is completely consensual. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue. And he loved her. See, that's another thing, what's wrong with black people. We think love is an emotional thing. Love is not emotional. Love is a duty. Love is a job. Love is a responsibility. Love is taking care of each other according to the laws of the Bible. You don't love a person if you are allowing them to have sex with any and everybody. You don't love a person if you are telling them that they're not married, they can have sex with whoever they want. You do not love a person if you are allowing them to break God's laws. That's not love, because now you are letting them get into the jeopardy of God's wrath. You know what I'm saying? So when this dude goes up into this woman's house, the next thing you know, he has a knock on the door, keys rattling, and her husband comes in, and that boy gets his brains blown out. You could be partially responsible for that. You could be responsible because you knew the law, and you ain't informed. You ain't informed. So you're possibly responsible. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue this. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. You know what I'm saying? So he got with Rebekah after his mama died. You know what I'm saying? And he got with Rebekah. Now he's comforted in his mama's death. You know what I'm saying? Everything's cool now. But that's a sidebar. But let's go to let's see another example of a marriage according to our ancestors. You know what I'm saying? Let's see another example. Let's go to Genesis. I believe it's 29 and 20. I believe it's 24 or 25. Let's go 25 anyway. Oh man, I typed that in all messed up. There we go. I got that there for you. Just a couple of chapters over. If you're there, rock with me. All right? Rock with me real quick. Genesis chapter 29, verse 20. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. Jacob worked 7 years. You know, that's Isaac's son. That's Isaac's son. He worked 7 years for a woman. That's the dowry for her. See, a lot of people nowadays like to think dowry is cash. It's not cash. It's whatever the father and the potential groomsman decided to be. It don't have to be money. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. He worked 7 years for this woman. 7 long years. I beg for y'all to read this chapter. You know, how bad does Rachel must have been bad. She must have made Rihanna look like trash. Because Jacob worked 7 years for her. I'm not working 7 years for, I don't know, I probably ain't found a Rebecca yet. You know what I'm saying? Shalom, Mark. Shalom, Erskine. Erskine rocking with us. But Rachel must have been a threat. Because Jacob worked 7 years. 7 years for the sister. You know what I'm saying? That's a long time. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And they seemed unto him but a few days. It didn't even, that 7 days was weak. He wanted her so bad, that 7 day was a breeze. Felt like a couple of days. It felt like a couple of days to the brother. You know what I'm saying? It felt like just a few days. How bad was it? Rachel must have been a threat. Whew. But let's continue. For the love he had to her, for a few days, for the love he had to her. And Jacob said unto Laban, you know what I'm saying? The time is up. Now Jacob got a conversation with Laban, which is Rachel's father. You know what I'm saying? He's about to have a conversation with him like, yo, my time's up. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled. He's like, yo, I did my job. I did my end. Give me my wife. Your daughter now is mine. Give me my wife. He was excited. Excited. You know what I'm saying? She had to be a brick house. She had to be. Rachel had to be something. 7 years. So those 7 years were up. He was excited. It felt like a few days to him, like nothing. He was excited, like, yo, let me get it. You know what I'm saying? And he said, my days are fulfilled that I may go in unto her. What does that mean, to go in unto her? Let me see if y'all know what that means, what it means to go in unto her. What does that mean? Type it in if you did. Type it in. Exactly right, Erskine. It means sex. He went in unto her. He worked 7 years for her, and he went in unto her. That's what he wanted to do, was have sex. He wanted to get it in. He went 7 years. Oh man. And Laban, let me continue, verse 22. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. All right, he's like, all right, let's celebrate. You did your thing. Let's celebrate. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have a feast. You know what I'm saying? A marriage is about to go down. See, that's Israel for you. See, Israel do party. We, black, Hispanic, and Native people, we party. It takes little excuse for us to have a party. Little excuse. You know what I'm saying? And this is a big excuse to party. A marriage is about to happen. You know what I'm saying? And it came to pass, verse 23. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him. And he went in unto her. Now he's all, he went, had that food and that liquor, you know what I'm saying? It's nighttime. Remember, there's no electricity back then. They all up in the tent or in the room. They about to get it in. He brings his daughter, which is not Rachel. He brings the other daughter, the older daughter. He brings her into the tent. For whatever reason, Jacob wasn't able to tell the difference. But he did go in unto this woman. He had sex with this woman. Now, according to this class, if he had sex with her, what would that mean? That's a question now. If he had sex with her, what would that mean? What would that mean for Jacob and Leah? Khan. They are married. It is officially marriage. We're going to prove it a little further. You know what I'm saying? Let's get with it. Verse 24. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for an handmaid. Right? And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. So by the time morning came around, he was shocked. Jacob was shocked, like, hold on. This is not what I worked 7 years for. This is not what I worked 7 years for. You know what I'm saying? I didn't work for Leah. I worked for Rachel. So Jacob's feeling some sort of way right now. He's having a little confliction in himself right now. He's a little upset. But let's continue. And he said to Laban, what is this thou, Slakia? And he said to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? He's asking him, what have you done to me? So he's feeling like he has been offended. He's feeling like something has been done to him. What could this have been? You know what I'm saying? Let me continue. Did not I serve, Salakia? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? So you know it was a trick. It was definitely a trick. And if you read further on in onto it, you will recognize it. Matter of fact, we should go further in onto it. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, bear with me one sec. I lost my place real quick. Hold on. Alright, here we go. He said, did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore thou hast done beguiled me. Beguile means to trick, to deceive. So he's asking him, hold on. Yeah, it was easy to trick him at that point, but according to the customs of Laban, that's what he was supposed to do. You can't give the younger daughter away before. Well, we got to get into it. Hold on, let's get into it. And Laban said, "It must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou served thee with me yet 7 other years." So he's saying, yo, you work with me 7 more years, I'll give you Rachel for real this time. You know what I'm saying? Now, he already worked 7 years for Rachel, ended up getting Leah because of the customs of Laban's country. You know what I'm saying? Man-made customs. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Verse 28. And Jacob did so. Guess what? Jacob worked those 7 more years. He worked 14 years for one woman. 14 years, but he ended up getting 2 wives for it. He can't throw away what's her name now. He already laid with her. In fact, Leah is one of the mothers of the 12 tribes of Israel. She is one of the mothers of the 12 tribes. So he definitely didn't throw her away. It wasn't even like they had sex one time and he had one kid. No, he kept her and had multiple kids with the sister. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. Verse 29. And Laban gave, Salakia. And Jacob, verse 28. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. To wife also. So what does that mean? What does that mean? How many things can you prove with that scripture? This scripture just doesn't prove that sex is marriage. It proves other things too. What else does it prove? Right. That according to the Bible, it's okay to have more than one wife. Because if it was wrong, it would have stopped at Leah. If it was wrong, he wouldn't have been able to get Rachel. You know what I'm saying? But if sex wasn't marriage, well, he could have got thrown Leah to the side, have her feeling bad about herself, depressed, worthless, and he would have worked 7 more years for Rachel and just had one wife still. But he didn't do that. He kept them both because sex is marriage, and it is okay to have more than one wife.